Okay, welcome back to Module 2 of Strategic Leadership focused on strategic thinking. This is part 2 where we're going to be talking about the 6 principles of strategic thinking. We're going to start with the principle of being outcomes focused. So what do we mean by being outcomes focused? Well, first, what is an outcome? What do we mean by outcome? This simply means, as you're thinking about your ministry, what are the end outcomes that your ministry wants to accomplish? What are the main objectives? Why does your ministry exist? What do you want to accomplish? What are the results you want to see? That's what we mean by an end outcome. All right, so to be outcomes focused, we need to know what those end outcomes are that we're trying to achieve, the results we're trying to get. We need to focus on them. So here's a visual example. If your vision is that big target there, you might have a number of measurable end outcomes that you're trying to achieve that you think will give you an indication of whether you're achieving that vision or not. What are some of the measurable results and outcomes that you want to see accomplished that you believe will help contribute to that final vision? So for example, for the ministry that I'm a part of, the Asia Leaders Learning Community, as you've heard, we have a vision of seeing flourishing and multiplying leaders in Asia who are multiplying ministries and the kingdom of God. So that's the vision. Well, what do we feel like some of the key outcomes are that we want to see accomplished? So for us, the end outcomes that we identified for the ALLC were 3 things. We wanted to accomplish developing equipped leaders, resourced leaders, and connected leaders. And we felt the extent to which we can equip leaders, resource leaders, and connect them would directly impact the vision of having flourishing and multiplying leaders. If they're equipped with the right skills, they should be able to lead well. If they have the resources they need to lead well, they should be doing well. And if they're connected with other leaders throughout Asia and the world who can help them, mentor them, coach them, share knowledge and wisdom, that should also contribute to them flourishing and multiplying. So that was our logic. Now, when you look at end outcomes, you need to identify outcomes that are in some way measurable. Even if seems to be a subjective end outcome, you can still come up with ways to measure really anything in life, even if it's subjective. So for example, you can even send out a survey and ask for people's opinions. We could send out a survey to the leaders that exist in YWAM in Asia and say, to what extent do you feel like you're equipped? And what areas do you feel like you need more equipping in? To what extent do you feel like you're resourced? What do you feel like you need more resourcing in? To what extent do you feel connected with other leaders to help you develop and grow? What else do you need? And even asking questions like that allows you to get a measurable answer and response that allows you to see how well you're doing in achieving those end outcomes. So again, in order to be a strategic thinker, we need to be outcomes focused. What are those end outcomes we're trying to achieve? Once you've identified those end outcomes, then you need to identify the strategies or approaches you will take to achieve each end outcome. So, for example, ask yourself, what are the key factors that will contribute to the successful accomplishment of each of our end outcomes? What are those key factors? What methods or approaches will we take to accomplish each end outcome? And what is really necessary to achieve that end outcome? And is it sufficient? Right? We need to do everything necessary, and we need to do it sufficiently that we can actually achieve the end outcome and thus hopefully have an impact on that end vision. So again, if we look at it visually, I'll get my picture out of the way a little bit here. You might have your vision statement, and then you have a number of end outcomes that you've identified. May have 3, 4, 5, whatever. And for each of those end outcomes, then you're going to identify specific strategies or approaches that will help you achieve each end outcome, right? Let me give you an example again for the ALLC ministry. Again, if we've got our vision to multiply leaders. We have 3 end outcomes: equipping leaders, resourcing leaders, and connecting leaders. And for each of those end outcomes, we identified a number of strategies, things that we thought would help contribute to achieving each end outcome. So for example, in terms of equipping leaders, we've decided that one strategy would be we're going to hold a leadership summit once a year in Asia, where leaders from throughout Asia can come together, emerging leaders and experienced leaders, and they can learn from one another. We can hold workshops and have teachings and mentoring and coaching on topics that people said they wanted to be equipped in. So that was one strategy. Another strategy to equip leaders was to hold webinars online, live online webinars that can be teachings focused on, again, topics that people said they needed to be equipped in. We also identified FaceTime as a strategy, which basically means providing an online environment where a very small number of emerging leaders can have a conversation with a very experienced YWAM leader or elder, ask questions that directly apply to their ministry, and get wisdom and advice and prayer from that experienced leader. That's another strategy. Another strategy was to promote trainings, because YWAM has great leadership training courses all throughout the world. So we decided we'd like to promote those trainings because those all help to equip leaders as well. And our final strategy for equipping leaders was to consider the possibility of developing future leadership training centers around the world that can serve our leaders as well. I'm not going to go through the other examples, but you get an idea here of how we walk backwards from the overall vision to identify measurable end outcomes we want to see that will have an impact on that vision. And then for each end outcome, defining approaches and strategies that will help achieve each end outcome.